been walking down this dirt road. Welcome to That Dirt Road Radio Show, where we honor music's past and discover music's present. I'm Howard Curry, and I'll be your host. All the while I'm thinking of you. Hey folks, for today's show, we caught up with a very busy musician, artist, performer, and local legend, Darren Ronan. Now let's go to the show. I've known you for a long time, quite a long time actually, and I've always wanted to get you in to be featured on the podcast because of your I don't know, you have an interesting position in Northeast Florida with respect to music. You've pretty much been able, as I was just saying just before we got started, you've pretty much been able to build your life around music in a way where you sustain yourself with music. That's hard to do. Mm-hmm. I was in Mississippi, and I was talking to a lawyer from Chicago, and she is an entertainment lawyer. Mm-hmm. And she asked me a question. She said, "What do you think the average salary of a professional musician is in the United States?" And I thought, wow, I've never actually thought about that. And she said, "I can tell you. It's $30,000 a year."
That's about $5,000 more than I would have guessed. Yeah.
And I thought, wow, imagine trying to live off of $30,000 a year. Mm-hmm. There's so many artists. So for if you would just start at the beginning and tell us whatever it is you want us to know about you, and then I got some questions for you at some point.
Sure. Everything started with my parents. My father was a country and western singer in the 50s. He lived in Ocala, and he did the whole thing you've seen in movies. He would ride in on his horse to grocery store openings, and he would jump off his horse, shoot his gun off, and then sing some songs. And you've seen that in the movies, but my father actually did that, which was kind of funny. He had a radio show on WHOO in Ocala. The house band was called the Hoot Owls. They had a Sunday night show. It was Lee Ronan and the Hoot Owls, and he would sing live on the radio. And by the time I came along, he had really pretty much stopped singing. We would get him to sing around the house. My parents were divorced, so I didn't see him a lot, but we would get him to sing when I did see him. And then when I was 14, my mother bought me a drum set, and it sat in my room for about a year and a half, and then I decided that if things are going to keep living in my bedroom, I need to learn how to play them. So I started taking lessons, and since I was about 16, it's just kind of been constant, either playing the drums or the bass or the guitar. Yeah.
So your dad, it sounds like he was a Roy Rogers-esque character. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. And so aside from him, I mean, he was singing to you. He was singing for you. That's a great role model. That's a great influence, of course. But who do you think influenced him?
He loved Eddie Arnold. That's the main one I remember. Sonny James. He loved Sonny James. If you remember Young Love.
I haven't heard Sonny. I have not heard the name Sonny James in quite some time.
Go listen to Sonny James. He is still great. Yeah, it's one of those great things. You pull it up, and it always works.
Young Love, yes, of course, I remember that song.
That was the song my father was singing when my mother first met him, actually. Yeah. So, yeah.
Music brought them together.
Mm-hmm. That's my understanding, anyway.
But yeah. And you actually are from Ocala originally?
No. I was born in Las Vegas.
Oh.
And then my parents came back to Florida when I was like 5 days old, and we lived down south in Hollywood, Florida, and then I've been in Jacksonville since I was about 5 years old.
So you get the drums, you learn how to play the drums, of course, quite well actually.
Thank you.
At what point did you think maybe I want to do this with other people, or maybe I want to do this?
Well, it was funny because I got the drums. The first song I learned how to play on the drums was Hound Dog by by Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got my best friend, a guy named Greg, and we scrounged together some money and went and bought a $100 bass. And then I met this other guy named Andy, and we knew like one song, and we played that one song for like 6 hours every Sunday. That was it. We would get together and we would just play one song because we just wanted to be playing. So I had a band within a week of getting my drums.
Well, that's great.
We were horrible. We were absolutely horrible. We had a great time.
But when do you think you improved to the point where you started taking it more seriously and playing with people? And when did it begin to develop from there?
Well, I mean, I started playing out when I was 17. I took drum lessons from a jazz drummer, a guy named Joe Bragg. He's unfortunately passed away now. Joe was an incredible drummer. He had his own band in Vegas for a while. He subbed in and played drums with Duke Ellington. This guy was a real deal. He used to play the Jacksonville Jazz Festival. It was at Metropolitan Park. There's a great jazz bass player named Leroy Vinegar. He would play with Joe. Joe grew up in St. Augustine with Ross Tompkins, who was the piano player for Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show.
Oh.
And so Joe had to come back to Florida because he had started drinking too much and he had a drinking problem. So I met him and I started taking lessons from him. And then when I got a car when I was, 17 or something, and a $500 car I bought from a guy in the woods in Palatka. You can't do that anymore. But it's a Plymouth Valiant. You can't even find those cars anymore. And I wish I had that car.
Those were the days, man.
Man, it was a great car. But so I used to go pick Joe up and take him to his gigs because he lost his license. He couldn't drive. I would load up his drums, take him to gigs, sit there all night and watch him play. And then eventually it got to where he would let me sit in and play. And then it got to where, unfortunately, he would start drinking on the gig. And by the third set, he would kind of just disappear. So I would end up finishing the gigs. I actually, when old Applejacks was there, he was playing there. Ross Tompkins was there. And I got the good thumbs up from Ross Tompkins for my playing, which was a big deal. And but then eventually, some of those guys just started hiring me instead of Joe. And Joe dusted me with one hand, but I would show up and be reliable and not just disappear. And so when I was like 17, a senior in high school, I got a gig playing every Sunday night, playing in a dance band. It was a 5-hour dance band. You couldn't play any fills. It was merengues and cha-chas and tangos and just play those things so the people could count their steps and dance. And so I would play that thing for 5 hours every Sunday, and then I'd go to school the next day. But I was making money. That was when I first started making money playing drums.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that was a good time. Then the next youngest guy in the band after me was 68 years old. He was the bass player. His name was Fred. He said to me one time, he was sitting at the bar drinking on a break, and I went over to ask him a question, and I asked him something, about the music, and he turned around to me, and he looked at me, and he goes, "You're on the same fucking gig as me. I'm not here to teach you." And he turned back around and started drinking again. And I went, "And that's how you do that?" I thought that was great. I feel like I'm in the club now,
So you got a practical education.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever study music theory or anything like that?
I didn't do that until I was 29 years old when I decided to go to college. I played bass in a rock band in the 90s and thought we were going to make it. And that didn't come together. And then when I was about 29, I was like, well, if I'm going to keep doing this, I better learn something. So I just decided to go to school. And it was, I had to learn fast.
How did that, because I'm always fascinated by people who can read music and and understand that language.
Mm-hmm.
Because, someone like me, I can't read a note. But how does that play out in your arsenal? How important is that to you as a player?
Well, as a player, it's been very important because I've been fortunate. I've been able to play shows, like at Theater Jacks, and all the charts are they're shows. They're written books. So you've got to read what's in the book,
right? Because
it goes with everything else that's happening. Because of that, I've been able to play with a guy named Eugene Quotes. He's a Broadway piano player that comes to town and plays with Sarah Boone at Theater Jacks, and I get to play those shows with people like that because I can read that stuff. So I got to play with, remember Linda Pearl from Happy Days? She was the Fonz's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came to town and she needed a hand drum player, but there were parts, and I got to play with her because I could read those parts, you know. So yeah, it's been really important. And now that in teaching, of course, you know, I teach how to read music every day. So yeah.
So the Hoot Owls was your dad's band.
The original Hoot Owls.
Was it resurrected?
It was. My brother took that name, and you know, and then we called our band that. So yeah.
How long did that exist, and what brand of music were you guys playing at that point?
It was rockabilly-ish, you know, a little with maybe some Johnny Ray and, you know, a little pop, the 50s pop kind of thing. But how long did the Hoot Owls last? It lasted probably from about 8 or 9 years, I guess, like 91 to 2001.
That's a long time.
You know, it and again, you know, like every other band in the country, we got this close to having the big break, and it just never came. So, yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day who was touring with people like Bob Seger and ZZ Top, you name it. And apparently the record industry came to hear them play at a show, and as luck would have it, the lead singer got arrested that night. He got into some sort of a altercation at a bar, and that one opportunity was gone.
Gone to the wind. That's it. Yeah, it's amazing. We the Hoot Owls, we entered this Conan O'Brien when his show was on NBC at the height of his fame. The height of that show, he had an unsigned band contest, and so we filmed one of our shows, and I said it was a VHS tape back then, and I sent that in, and they contacted us and wanted to know if we had national distribution, because if Conan wanted to put us on the show, and we didn't have, this was pre-internet, we didn't have national distribution. They said, well, we can't put you on the show if you don't have distribution, because there's no point in people seeing you on the show if they can't go buy your record. And of course I said, well, if you put us on the show, then we can get national distribution. but so we couldn't, you know, we didn't get on the Conan show. They did send us piles and piles of swag, you know, jackets and shirts and things like that. But, you know, that's another one of those stories. You're this close and it just doesn't happen. Yeah.
I was listening to a guy the other day talk about, it's actually the lead singer and founder of the Wallflowers, and he was talking about this very thing. And, you know, there was a period, what seems like yesterday, but it was 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, where people could still break into the music business, but record companies are no longer signing people. I mean, they have their legacy artists,
right?
And there's one out of, you know, 1 million people who might get a record deal. But he was talking about how the question centered around who would be the next Beatles or who would be the next Rolling Stones, and he said there won't be ever, because there's no space for that, right? Which kind of makes me want to ask you your thoughts on technology, and what is your view on how it's affected, one, the music industry, and two, the quality of music, how music is recorded and produced, because I know you do all of those things. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, you know, the technology is great. Technology is a tool, so I don't think you can blame technology for anything. Although, you know, we've heard 1,000 stories about how the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and, you know, how many inventions and great things came from the lack of technology, the ingenuity to achieve something. Now you don't have to think about anything. It's all there in a computer already, pretty much, you know. Yeah, I don't really have a solid answer on that. I do think it's, you know, the old guy in me is like, it's better in the old days, you know. But I mean, it's nice that and I do it. I very purposely I'll get online and start looking for music that is not the popular music. There's so many great unsigned songwriters and bands out there that it's fun to just go discover, which couldn't happen. Didn't happen like that before the internet, and the way it can happen now. And some of it was better. You're never going to have the huge bands of the day because we don't have the tastemakers now. The radio and movie studios and television studios and record companies, they were tastemakers back in the day. Tastemakers are gone. It's because there's so much access to everything. I don't know that we're even going to have another Taylor Swift. I think she's probably the last of the kind of that superstar kind of thing. They still try to force it with, the Dua Lipas and some of these other modern people, but and they are selling and making huge money and doing big shows and stuff, but it doesn't seem to permeate the culture the way like it did. I don't know that I'm not in high school, of course, but in high school it was fun to discover a band on MTV or wherever you find your band, and then you go to school the next day to see if any of your friends knew about it, and if somebody knew about it, then you guys were buddies because you had that in common. I don't know, does that happen anymore? I don't know.
I got an email the other day from Spotify,
mm-hmm.
and they were offering me unlimited access to all the music on Spotify, right?
Mm-hmm.
For like $13.95 a month,
mm-hmm.
and that made me think about the day Coconuts Records, right?
Oh yeah.
That made me think about going to Barnes and Noble and looking through our Blockbuster music. The old places where you go to find music, and it occurred to me, well, heck, for $13.95, I have a subscription to all of this music.
Mm-hmm.
Why the heck would I buy? What would compel me to want to buy, a person's record anyway?
Right.
So that was my thought on that. And then Sheryl Crow was talking about some of the things you were just saying. She got a royalty check for a song that had, this may not be the exact number, but I believe she said it was for 1 million plays,
mm-hmm.
and it was like $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, they would, they have monetized music differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I just bought a vinyl album that Wilco put out, only for nostalgic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But they apparently, and you may know more about this. Apparently, you can go online now through artificial intelligence and give it some parameters, and it will write a song for you.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's frightening and sad because I don't know that we'll be able to even tell the difference between the real band. There was some band that was on Spotify in a day and a half. I don't remember the numbers, but it had 500,000 followers or something. And it's not a real band; it's an AI produced thing. They created an AI picture so it looked like there was a band there. The whole thing. I don't think it's good in the long term. That AI is just again, it's a tool used in the right ways. It can be a great thing, but I think it's just I think it's the Spotify guy, Daniel Ek or whatever his name is. He already said by like a certain date he wants to have like 30% of all the music on Spotify be AI, because then they don't have to pay for it. It doesn't belong to anybody, so they don't have to pay any musicians.
That would certainly have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be the musically for you, the music that spoke to you the most in your early life?
Well, because my parents were divorced, I didn't see my dad a lot. So all the things that I connected to him like Sonny James. And I used to listen to Eddie Arnold like there was nothing else, because I knew that my father liked him. Elvis, I listened to tons of Elvis because, again, it was a connection, a long-distance connection to my father. Yeah, and then, when I got to be a teenager, I got obsessed, like crazy obsessed with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I used to ride my bike every Saturday to the library, and I would sit, and again, this was the 80s, so there wasn't as much out there. But I sat in the library for a period of time every Saturday and just read every book about the Beatles or the Stones that was in the library. And I was just obsessed. I just really wanted to be part of that world. And reading those books felt like it got me there a little bit, So, but yeah, the Beatles and the Stones. And then a little bit later, like the Smithereens, you remember them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They came out in, 86 or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that first album. Wore that album out. Yeah.
Now you, aside from being a drummer, I know you also play a couple of other instruments. But one of the things you do that I'm curious about is you write songs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would, how did that begin? And what strikes you to what makes you decide to try to write a song? Or what prompts that?
That's a great question. When I decided to try writing songs, I think it was the Tunnel of Love Tour '88. We went and saw Springsteen in Atlanta. We drove up 6 hours, watched the show. It was about a 3-hour show. Turned around and drove back, all in one day, because I was 18 or whatever, so I could do that. And I had a Walkman, and I had a cassette with one side had Nebraska, and the other side had Born to Run. And my brothers were in the car with me, but I drove the whole way back, and I listened to that cassette, both sides, for 6 hours, and just those two albums, just on constant, and it's a Nebraska album. It was like, I wonder if I could do this. I can't, but I can't do that, but I can try. So that was when I first had like a conscious light bulb of maybe I can try to do this, And yeah, and today what sparks me to write a song, if I just hear somebody say something interesting, if I just hear anybody say anything that sounds interesting, I'm like, oh, that sounds like it could be something in a song. And then it's like a little fun challenge for myself to work that, whatever it is, into a song.
And do you spend time on a regular basis doing that? Is it spontaneity? And when you do, what is your process?
Oh yeah, I write all the time. My phone is full of song ideas, and I try to make time to write something. I'm not going to say every day, but every other day at the least. Usually, like I say, it'll come from something I heard somebody else say. So then I got to kind of figure out what is going to be my take on that. What am I going to do with that? And then I start kind of building from that. And it's usually just sitting with my phone, just parsing through ideas, just running ideas. I use the little voice thing, and I can just sit and churn ideas through that. And then, I'll let that sit for a week or two or whatever, and then I'll go back and look at it, see if it still works. And if it's crap, I'll delete it. And if it feels like it can be something, then when I get an opportunity to sit with the guitar, I'll sit and try and see if I can make anything out of it.
Do you have a song that you've written that you would consider your favorite?
That's a great question. It depends on the day. I have a song called "God Don't Understand." I really like. I like that one a lot. I've just written a song. It's my newest song. I just wrote it last week. It's called "Damn, It'll Be Okay," and it's about those periods that everybody goes through in life where it just feels like everything's going wrong all the time. That's what that's about. And then, but eventually you say, this too shall pass. Damn, it'll be okay. I like that one too. I wrote the song about Riverside called "Here It Feels the Same." I'm real proud of that one. I like that one a lot.
houses are old and the trees hang down and cover the road. All down the street, they know your name. Everything changes, here it feels the same. A house on the corner where the stucco is cracked and the grass in the yard might never come back. Fence posts are falling under their age. Everything changes, here it feels the same. Here it feels the same while the world goes round. Here it feels the same like any other town. Here it feels the same, and you play the game. Here it feels the same, but everything has changed. See the water at the end of the street. There's a little park where the families meet. The kids run around, playing their game. Everything changes, here it feels the same. Here it feels the same while the world goes round. Here it feels the same like any other town. Here it feels the same, and you play the game. Here it feels the same, but everything's changed. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. Here it feels the same, but everything has changed.
God, you don't understand. Do you mind talking about that song?
No, it that one came from a phrase. I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and he was having a patch where, a bunch of things went wrong. They say they come in threes. I think he'd had 4, and so he said, he goes, sometimes God gives with both hands, and he was being sarcastic, of course. And I thought, oh, that's a good line, and so that whole song sprung out of him saying that, and but what I did with it is I just wrote it about a guy who's mad at God because the guy's wife or girlfriend or partner or whatever got sick and died. And he's just mad at God because God let that happen.
Are you a spiritual person?
I mean, I'm not religious. I'm not, I don't subscribe to any religion. I was raised Catholic, but I don't really, that's not my thing. I definitely believe there's some sort of cosmic, universal energy happening.
Something bigger than us.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I don't think it's the guy in the clouds, but
Gary Smalley. Sorry to interrupt you,
No, that's fine.
but I have to. I have to. And I'm not. This is a paraphrase, not a quote. But he in one of the songs on his album that was released after he passed away, he refers to God being the color of water, which I thought was a pretty profound idea.
Absolutely, yeah.
But so you've recorded a number of albums, EPs.
Yeah, I mean, I've really only put one. I put one CD out under my name. I put an EP out under the band, the 77Ds, under that name. And lately, I've just been writing. I'll write a song, record it, and put it out. I've just been putting out singles. I thought about collecting and waiting until I had an album's worth, but I was like, I'm just putting them out.
You're not the only one that has that idea. I mean, I've heard a couple of established artists. In fact, the half of Hall & Oates, as a matter of fact, I was listening to him the other day talk about the state of affairs with music. And he is only releasing singles because he said people don't have the capacity to, the attention span to consume 12 songs. And so it's interesting. And, I guess another... just another example of how things have changed, because I remember albums used to be thematic oftentimes.
Yeah.
But no mas.
Well, I mean, there's just, the fun of the album was always, to me, I remember even when CDs came out, you would sit and look through those booklets, but it was never the same. You had that big album cover. You could just sit and study. I would listen to the entire album, and I would just stare at the album cover. I knew every producer's name. I knew I knew where the addresses of the record label was, because I would sit and read these albums. I remember the Kiss Destroyer album. That cover, even to this day, it's just amazing. But I remember, I was young. I was like 8 or something when that album came out. And that album scared me, the cover. It's just like, what is going on here? And so I think from that point on, I was kind of obsessed with album covers. And so... even with music that I never cared for, like I never cared for Molly Hatchet, really, but they had amazing album covers. You don't get that today. It's and now with streaming stuff, it's like a little tiny picture. It's just like
right. The liner notes alone on some albums were fascinating.
Absolutely, yeah.
I still, when I get an opportunity, I stumble upon an album. I got some in there. I'm still reading liner notes on those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some golden nuggets there also.
Yeah, it never stops being fun. I've got, a couple hundred records at home, and when I take them out and listen to them, I sit and hold the thing and read about it. Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. But I think, the other thing with the singles as opposed to albums, I read this, I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not hip to the internet thing, but I read a thing that said, when you release singles, every time you release one, that puts your name out there again. As opposed to if you put 10 or 12 songs with one name attached to it, now you put out 10 songs with your name attached to every single one of them. It gets you more hits on the internet, so you create some...
Right, and that speaks to the environment. Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. Because how easy is it to get lost in the sea of humanity, right? And how the heck does someone stand out?
Right.
I see guys like Jesse Wells, and he's constantly on. He's releasing a new video every day.
Yeah.
Of him
He's great.
He's a tremendous songwriter. But he's standing in a field somewhere, I believe in Tennessee. I could have that wrong, but nonetheless, playing a song that he's written. But he's relentless.
Yeah, it's another job. It's a whole just the social media, internet part of the thing now is a job by itself. And I don't have the people around me, like I released a new song and somebody was like, "Oh, you got to make a TikTok for it." I don't have TikTok. They said, "Well, you got to do it if you want to get that attention, And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I just don't need that attention that much. I mean, I want people to hear my music, but I just don't have the energy or the bandwidth with everything else happening in life to go worry about TikTok videos, But it's great for that Jesse Wells guy. He's a great songwriter, and those videos, are the reason we know about him.
He's a heck of a... I had no idea. I thought it was this guy... when I first saw him, I thought, well, this is an interesting folk singer. But the truth of the matter is, his river runs much deeper than that. He's got a rock band. He's he's the real deal. So, so about the 77Ds, we haven't touched on that at all. Right. You care to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's originally started that band in 2002. Dwight Yoakam came to town, and he was playing at Club 5, and I got the opportunity to Tim Hall, who was the promoter, asked if I wanted to open for Dwight, and I didn't really have a band at the time. The Hoot Owls were broken up, and I was like, well, shoot, I'll just build a band. I knew a couple of guys and who liked the same music, so we just crammed for it. We had maybe a month or 6 weeks before the gig, and so we just got together and we crammed, and and so we just built a band, and we were initially called the RPMs, and but I found out there was about 12 other bands called the RPMs, so I changed the name, and but we recorded a couple little EPs and played that Dwight Yoakam show, and it was just a great night. So the members of the band have evolved and changed. I have a different guitar player now, different bass players. So, but the band's been going pretty much since 2002. We've gotten to play some cool shows, open for Dick Dale, Southern Culture on the Skids, different people like that. So, yeah.
Dick Dale, that had to have been a cool show.
I've actually opened for Dick Dale 3 times. I opened for him 3 different times.
At any point, did you have the occasion to cross paths with him, like talk to him?
Oh, I hung out with him. Totally hung out with him.
Nice.
Yeah. He was that dude was a trip. He super aggressive. I wish I would kill to have his energy. But yeah, he was super aggressive, real smart. Didn't hesitate to give an opinion. No, I had a great time talking to him. I talked to him a lot, actually. Yeah, and because I was friendly with Big Sandy and the Fly Riot Boys, I went to California, L.A., and this had to be '99, I think it was. And am I getting that right? Anyway, I might have my things confused, but I went and hung out in TV Land. If you remember that channel, they were having an event in L.A., and Big Sandy got me and my wife passes, and we got in, and Dick Dale was there, so I didn't play with him then, obviously. But I did talk to him, and I think that's right. And but we opened for him, at the old Milk Bar downtown, and then at Jackrabbits twice. So yeah.
That's cool, man. And opening up for Dwight Yoakam had to be cool too.
That was a great night. That was a spectacular night. Got to hang out with Pete Anderson. Pete Anderson is the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Just the best guy. Yeah. Dick Dale was funny though. The first time it was at the Milk Bar, and there was a line of people when he was done playing. The place was full, and he studied martial arts. He studied Kenpo, which was the same style of martial arts that Elvis studied, and so I asked him. I said, "Hey, aren't you into Kenpo, whatever?" And he looked at me, and he was big. I'm little, but he was big, and he's like, "What? How do you know about that?" And I said, "Oh, I just thought I read that or something." And so he grabbed me. There's a line of people waiting to talk to him, but he was grabbing me and showing me moves, like turning my arm and grabbing my shoulder and like, if you hit it here, and just and I didn't hear.
That's great.
I didn't hear anything he said because I was feeling bad because I was holding up the line for all these people. But it was hysterical. Dick Dale's grabbing my arm and twisting me around to show me Kenpo moves. It was just a funny night. But yeah.
You did a lot of shows, or have done some shows at the Ponte Vedra, in Ponte Vedra,
the concert hall.
When Arvid was, or I'm not sorry, not Arvid, when the promoter,
Tib.
Yeah, Tib Miller was over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were great friends, and he was very generous, and gave us the opportunity to play, open for some really cool people, both at Ponte Vedra and at the Ritz Theater downtown, the historic Ritz Theater. Yeah. So we played a lot of cool shows with that. Yeah, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Marsha Ball, Booker T. That was a great one.
Nice. Tibbs missed. Yeah. Horribly missed. Yes.
I was talking about him yesterday. I knew I would miss him, but I'm surprised how much I miss him. Yeah.
I didn't know him long. I always felt like I was in the presence of a really good person. With Tib.
Yeah, he was as honest as you could possibly be, and he was, I mean, almost to a fault. Very, very smart. Great insights. He didn't play any music at all, but man, he knew music almost better than anybody I've ever met. He could listen to something, he could tell you why it was good or why it was not good. Very, very smart fellow. We used to have really long conversations. Sometimes when I didn't want a long conversation, but yeah, I miss those conversations. Yeah.
One day he said to me, I was at your place, and he says, he asked me, did I know who Uncle Dave Macon was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I did not.
Yeah.
And he said, well, go check him out, and then when I see you next, tell me what you think, right? Mm-hmm. What an interesting character. And what an interesting story that guy had. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I know Tib. I mentioned Tib because I know the two of you were very close. Mm-hmm. And he was just, like I said, he was just one of those people that, I don't know, I felt like for some reason he was always I felt like I was in the presence of really a good guy. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know him long. Mm-hmm. So you also own a music studio, mm-hmm. and you offer music education to people. I'm sure. Is it mostly, I guess, young people?
Well, I mean, the majority of the people come to, that are taking lessons are kids. But yeah, we teach. I had a guy. This was 13 years ago or something. I had a guy come in. He was 81 years old and wanted drum lessons. He was retired and he had a bunch of money. He bought himself a nice, expensive drum set, a DW kit, and just wanted lessons. 81 years old. I was like, "You rock, man. That's great." So he took lessons for. I don't know.
That is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we teach all ages. So, and we have older people who come in and they'll say it out loud. I'm here because I need to keep my brain sharp. And they're exactly right. They will do that.
Well, that's certainly one good way to do it. A productive way to do it. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite thing? I know you do a lot of solo gigs now, don't you? Yeah. How do you like that?
I love it. Yeah. It's fun because if I'm playing like cover gigs, if you're coming to the restaurant and you order your French fries, I'm the guy in the corner you ignore, and it's fine because I can play anything that I want to play, whether it's Guy Clark or Robert Earl Keen or Tom Petty or Men at Work, or I can just, whatever hits me, I can play it. Very often I'll be driving to a gig and hear something, and I'll go, "Oh, I'm gonna play that tonight. I've never played it before," but I'll just, with the internet, you can pull the chords up and everything, you just play it. And I love it. It's fun, and when you play with other people, I love playing with other people. But you play with other people, then there's a rehearsal aspect, and so it's. But yeah, I love it.
During the pandemic, of course, everything was shut down. We're not, I'm not saying anything that we don't already know, but you did experiment with doing some shows in your studio, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we did. We did 33 or 34 live streams, and it was great because we put up the Venmo thing or whatever, and people would send in money, and we were able to give 100% of that money to whoever performed. It wasn't always a lot of money, but if it was $50, that was $50 more than somebody had, so it didn't hurt, and we had a good time. Everybody had a lot of fun with those. And we're starting a songwriter series back there in 2 weeks again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but in person this time. But yeah. Yeah.
What type of response are you getting on that?
Actually, we've only posted it, just on Facebook, but no, I've had actually quite a few people message me and go, "What's going on with this?" So I'm hoping that as many people have responded will show up.
And how's this going to work? What's it going to look like?
It's just a solo. I mean, if somebody wants to have somebody play with, solo or duo, whatever, we ask a songwriter to come in and play. You can do anything you want with it. You can come in and play all your originals. You can play originals, covers. It's your hour. It's going to be an hour, 7 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday evenings, and that's it. We're not charging for the show. We are asking for donations, and 100% of the donations will go to the performer, the songwriter. We'll have wine and cheese, and just hopefully a nice hour of music for people.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere in your space is It reminds me of some spaces when I was up in New York where I would go listen to live music. It just feels kind of earthy in there, you know.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we've had some good shows back there, some fun times. So,
what are your thoughts on the music scene in Jacksonville?
I think it's great. It's great and growing. There seems to be more songwriters now than I can remember, and there seems to be a community for it. There's places to play. People are out there actively doing it. There's tons of open mics, and it's not open mics like it used to be. It's like they're invited open mics where you have an opportunity to go play your original music. Yeah, the community's great. I host the open mic at Grace Note every other Wednesday, and we have a great little community of people.
Where's that?
The Grace Note Brewing over there on Lakeside Drive,
Okay.
Ortega.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a great little growing community of people that come there, and it's just sort of group jam type stuff, and everybody's supportive. Yeah, I think this, I haven't really thought about it, but just thinking about it now, I think this might be the best period in the Jacksonville music scene that I can remember. I know that back in the 70s and 80s, you had all the great jazz clubs and things like that, but just in terms of local musicians and songwriters and things, I think it's really good right now.
That's interesting because it's unless you know, I mean, unless you're plugged in, you don't know what's happening. I mean, someone the other day was just mentioning they moved to Jacksonville and they were like, where do I find all this? Where do I find any entertainment? Because Jacksonville geographically is spread out.
Sure. Yeah.
So someone like you could easily guide someone in that direction, of course. But no, I'm very interested. You're very interesting to listen to talk.
I appreciate it.
I think you're glossing over some things, though. I think your impact on the music. I doubt there's very few people you don't know. You know pretty much all the musicians.
Well, I mean,
the artists in town. I mean, you just do.
I genuinely make an effort to try to know what's going on and know who's out there doing what. Even if I haven't met the people in person, I try to have an awareness of what's happening and what's going on. I think it's important. And when I get the opportunity to meet people, I want to let them know that somebody's paying attention. And
what would you say what would you say to someone who loves music and they want that to become part of their life, and they want to create music, they want to play music? What advice would you give that person?
Do it. Start right away. And if you've never played an instrument and you're nervous and you're scared because it looks far away, get a ukulele. The ukulele is the sweetest, nicest instrument. It's kind to everybody. You can be playing songs on the ukulele in an hour or two. That's the easiest entrance, I think, of any instrument. I call it a gateway instrument because once you get a little facility on that, then you're like, oh, maybe the guitar doesn't look so far away, or a violin, or whatever it is that turns you on. So that's what I tell most people. Get a uke, give that a try.
What is the best part of Darren Ronan?
At this point in my life, I think I genuinely want to see everybody do well and be happy. And if I have an opportunity to support or help in that way, I'm going to do what I can.
It was a real pleasure sitting and speaking with Darren. We'd like to thank him for his time and for all of his contributions to the local music community. Until next time, see you down that dirt road.
Like they did when I was a younger man. Still walking down this dirt road.